every time I meet someone new, I wonder, what are they going to think when they find my Instagram account? Like, are they not going to want to be friends with me anymore? Hello and welcome back to the Eunoia podcast. If you can't tell, have lost my voice a little bit. It's coming back. A few days ago, I couldn't talk at all. It was just like a whisper. That was it. But it's coming back and I'm getting there. It doesn't hurt to talk at all, but it's just not the same. It doesn't hurt to talk though. It's fine. I'm fine. I'm pretty much over my cold, but I don't know. We'll see. Honestly, I forgot how long colds last. Like, when COVID started, we were all focused on getting COVID, like focused on trying to stay away from COVID and trying not to get COVID, and everyone was really worried about that, and then we never got any colds, and I forgot how bad a cold is. Like, the last few times that I've gotten COVID, it's only lasted about 2 or 3 days, the bad part, and then it's just the rest of the quarantine and, but this cold has been, it's been kicking my butt for, I think 10 days now, so that's fun. Don't get a cold, y'all. Anyways, so I am recording this episode from my bedroom again, at home. So I'm at home right now, and I just got a stand for the podcast, or for the microphone, because I had a few people say they loved the video content, but they wished that the microphone wasn't right in front of my face, which I can understand that. So you can't even tell that I'm talking. So we got this stand now, and we'll see if it works. Hopefully it's working out. Let me know what you think. And yeah, I think that's most of the updates. So for today's episode, I really want to talk about something that I've talked about it before. If you are on the newsletter for my website, you may have seen that I have a post on people pleasing. But it was a while ago that I wrote it, and I really want to go more in depth and kind of I think I'm just going to read through the post, not actually read through the post, but just kind of go through the main points there and then elaborate on it and kind of think back to okay, is there anything that I want to add? Is there anything that I feel differently about now versus then when I made the post? And really look at, how can we make a YouTube video on people pleasing and putting that into YouTube content too, because I know that a lot of people don't like to read blog posts, and I also know that a lot of people just didn't even maybe know that that was a blog post. So I have it down here on my computer, and the first thing that I say when looking at people pleasing is you want to figure out the why. You want to figure out, why is it that you people please? And I have to really go through my brain here and figure out, I don't people please as much as I used to, but I remember that I did used to struggle with it a lot more. And so, at least for an example here, I'm trying to go back and look at where I was a few years ago and why was it that I personally felt like I would be people pleasing, because there's multiple different whys for it. Maybe you people please because that's something that your parents did, or someone that you looked up to did, or someone that was just, kind of raised you did. Or maybe you people please because that's what the people around you do, and that's what you have thought has just been that's what you think is societally acceptable. Or maybe you people please because it's a coping mechanism for avoiding some sort of emotion that you don't necessarily want to feel. And I know for me, I think that was probably the biggest reason why I would people please. And then there's a bunch of different other reasons why you can people please. So it's a really big, you have to really think about it for your own personal situation, because I can't tell you why you people please. Obviously, I wish that I could, but what I can do is really go through the process with you and looking back at what I've learned from it, and even just today, why I do that. Even just today, thinking about it, I think a lot of the times when I do people please, it's because I'm worried of how people will look at me. So I think in the past, when I would people please, I was more focused on I was trying to avoid discomfort, specifically just like any sort of discomfort, like the people around me. I had my friends. I wanted to keep those friends. I really liked those friends, but I also knew that in that specific group of friends, if I did something that they weren't used to, that I might lose them. And I could do a whole other episode on friendships, which I have done another one, and I'll try and link it in the description if I remember. But I remember consciously thinking, no, I can't do that because I don't know what they'll think. They're going to start judging me. And, it's just this fear of losing friends, especially in high school or junior high, like especially in middle school and high school and all of that time. That's the time where you have a lot of friends and you're really focused on those friendships and those connections. And if you don't have the friends, then that says something bad about you, right? Like that's what it feels like it is. So I think that was the biggest reason, like when my people pleasing habit started. And today I am a lot better at it because I have gone through this process of what I'm talking about today. Like it's like a process that I've gone through multiple times, but I think that I still have some people pleasing because everyone's going to have a little bit there. But the really big thing is just to be conscious about it and to work at it and to recognize that you're not happy. Why is it that you clicked on this video? Probably because you know that you shouldn't be people pleasing because you're unhappy about it. So, just going through this process, the first step is even just being conscious about it and asking yourself why it happens. Today, I feel like my people pleasing happens the most when I am afraid of what people will think of me. I'm gonna be really honest here, and this is something that I struggle with a lot. But having a presence online is really hard for me, not just personally in terms of trying to figure out what that means for me. Like I love it. I don't, get me wrong, I would not trade it for anything. I was just watching a video earlier today about someone saying like, what is your purpose in life and what is it that you always come back to? And it's this, like, I cannot tell you how many times I had tried to start this brand. And that's, I think, part of why I say that the brand started in 2019, because the idea started in 2019 and I had so many startups. I had so many tries before I actually got the confidence to actually do it. I dealt with a lot of fear about what people would say, what people would think, how people would look at me. The idea of being online, does that make me an influencer? Like, what does that even mean? Is that a bad term? Is that a good term? Like, how do I feel about all of these different things? And it was a lot of just a struggle for me and identity wise, and also a lot of when I'm meeting new people, when I'm making new friends, and I guess this is stemming still from the people pleasing before, and I'm just realizing that now, is that I really worry about what is it that people will think about me. If I have a presence online, does that mean that I'm not going to be able to make new friends? But yeah, I know that's not true because I have a bunch of amazing friends who love and support me for what I do online. And I have a bunch of amazing friends. I have a few friends who already do this exact same thing online or are very similar to, like, you do things that are very similar to this. But I grew up in a small town where no one did that kind of thing. So it was really new for me. And it really was a fear thing. And so now, even when I'm seeing this become, a more common thing, now that I'm seeing that people actually love me for who I am and for what I do and really admire the brand that I've built, I still really struggle with it. Every time I meet someone new, I wonder, what are they going to think when they find my Instagram account? Like, are they not going to want to be friends with me anymore? And so I have a struggle of people pleasing because I'm afraid of how it's going to come back to me if I don't people please. I'm afraid that it's going to be harder to make friends, it's going to be harder to make connections, and also just what are people going to think of me? If I'm not this perfect human being, what are people going to think of me? And that's the first why in trying to figure that out. And I will say that honestly, while I'm doing this, I could have written an outline, a bit more of a structured outline for this video, But I decided not to because I really want it to be something where I'm going through the process again. I haven't sat down and done this process for a while, and so I'm realizing all of this that I'm talking about right now. Like, this is just me rambling and talking about all of this stuff that I'm trying to figure out because I want it to be as real as it possibly can be. Like, no one has their life figured out. And that's the thing that I come back to every single time that I am working on this podcast, is that none of us have our lives figured out. None of us know what we are doing. None of us have anything figured out. But yet we try so hard to be perfect. We feel like we have to. Like, I'm talking about this right here, my habit with people pleasing, and I feel so much like I have to be perfect so that people will like me. But yet where do we get that idea from? So it's just a thing that you learn when you grow up. It's just something that happens. And so the trick is to kind of recognize it and look at it and be like, okay, why is this happening? And then stop it, or really challenge that and try and shift it the other way. Because if you really want to be happy in life and really live for yourself, you have to shift those habits that are not helping you anymore. So that's the why are we trying to stop the people pleasing, and why are you people pleasing in the first place? And I think that's the really big first step. And then the second step to figuring out how to shift your people pleasing habit is to actually realize, is it actually possible? Like, to think about people pleasing in a logical flow, if you will, because you want to look at it in terms of, is that, a lot of times people pleasing, I learned this in my counseling, and I'm going to try and explain it the best way that I can. Again, not a medical professional here, but I'm going to try and explain it the best way I can. You have two sides of your mind, basically. And you have on one side your logical mind, and then on the other side you have your emotion mind. And in the center is kind of where you want to be, where you're using your logical thoughts, but you're also using your emotions and really figuring out what works the best for you, right? And it's this really nice mix, and honestly, I think really beautiful mix there when you can find a balance. But a lot of times in situations of fear, where, at least for me, and I think a lot of times people pleasing comes out of some sort of fear, you're in your emotion mind there, and you want to get to the center. So the way to combat that is to use your logical mind, to deliberately, like consciously, really focus on using the opposite end of that spectrum right there, and using that logical mind to try and bring you back towards the center. So in this case, people pleasing is a lot of times a really emotional thing. You don't necessarily think about it at first. It's just something that you kind of respond quickly, like, oh, I'm scared, I'm scared someone's not going to like me. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. I don't know how to say no, anything like that. And you act out of your emotion mind. So here, what we want to look at is, okay, logically, is people pleasing even possible? What happens logically if you people please? If you people please, you're going to do the thing that, that person next to you wants, right? But we know that human beings are all unique. We know that human beings are all different, and we know that no one has the same way of going about things. So if you're trying to make every single person in your little bubble happy, it's not going to be possible, right? I'm trying to think of a good example for this. Say, like, let's say that two coworkers, friends, something like that, are in an argument about something, and they ask you for your advice or your opinion, right? That puts you in a really hard place, because if you have a habit of people pleasing, what are you going to do? How are you going to make them both happy? You can say you agree with one of them, and then when you're talking to the other one, say you agree with them, and say you agree with both of them, but eventually they're going to figure it out, right? You're not actually helping anyone by doing what they want necessarily. You're not necessarily helping anyone by people pleasing. And that's not something that you can keep on forever. It's not necessarily lying. I wouldn't say people pleasing is lying, but it can kind of have the same effect that it is, because you're not staying true to yourself. And when people realize that, it can be really difficult and it can be really hard. And people might actually get mad, and then you're back at square one for that. So just looking at it logically, I don't feel like people pleasing is possible. Like, I don't feel like you can completely people please. And even if you could make every single person in the world happy, you wouldn't be staying true to yourself. So you wouldn't be happy. And I hope that your ultimate goal is to be happy. I hope that that's something that you know that you deserve, to be happy, to feel that way, and to be yourself, your most authentic self. So in order to stop people pleasing, that's another thing that you have to realize, is to realize that what even is people pleasing? Like, honestly, what even is it? Why do we do it? It doesn't necessarily work. So why is it that we do it? We all do it, but why? And kind of challenging that thought, challenging that reaction that, your emotion mind has by people pleasing, and challenging and being like, hold up a second. Why is this a thing? Like, just let me know. Just why is this a thing? I feel like sometimes when I'm thinking about my mind, my emotion mind, I really feel like it's just like this kind of like Inside Out. Is that what that movie is called, where you have like little people in your head? I feel like my mind is just its own little thing, and sometimes I feel like I just have to stop it and be like, wait a second, I love you, you're great, you help me a lot, but I think I'm gonna take control over this one. Or like, wait, can I just play devil's advocate here? Like, why are you doing this? Because sometimes it's like it's a little friend, but we don't always have to agree with all of our friends. It doesn't always make sense. And I think that your emotion mind and your logical mind can both be, you can go too far to both sides. You can go too far to your logical mind too. And I know I do that. And so just trying to find that balance there. And I feel like that's a really good a thing I feel like that's just been really helpful for me in learning how to take care of my mind and just take care of myself, is understanding the two ends of the spectrum there, in your mind and where your mindset can be. The next big step, and this is just a really big umbrella step, and I will hopefully try to go through it in future episodes, because I feel like it is really important. But the big thing here is prioritizing yourself, taking care of yourself, and realizing that in order to stop people pleasing, you're gonna have to start putting yourself first. And that's really hard. And I'm again trying to think back to, when was it that I started putting myself first, like actually paying attention to it. I think it was when I had pandas disorder, which I kind of had to, I guess, because I didn't really have any other option there. But the things that I did that helped me get there and helped me actually enjoy putting myself first was I found habits that were really, really helpful for me. So, for example, for me, yoga is something that is extremely helpful for me and a habit that I love. Not everyone is that way, moving your body is something that is just really important to prioritize yourself, which I am going to be trying to do an episode on that soon. But, however it is, if you enjoy moving your body by playing a sport, by going to the weight room, swimming, doing yoga, Pilates, any of those things, or even just going for a walk, something like that. I had one friend last year who she transferred, which was certainly sad, but it's like she went on a walk almost every single day and she loved it. And that's not something that I can do. I'm not good at going on walks. I love walking to go, like, if I have a destination I'm going to, but just to go on a walk for fun is like, why? Like, I just don't do that. But she did all the time, and that was really good for her. Walking is so good for you. So really focusing on what is it that like habits that are good for you. So I guess physical activity is a big one there. Paying attention to your mind and being kind to your mind. So maybe something like journaling or meditating. Those have been really helpful for me. But just the first step to prioritizing yourself is finding habits that are for you. Basically just finding a habit that's away from electronics, away from being around other people, and just being with yourself. What is something that you can do by just being with yourself? Is it reading a book? Is it watching? No, I don't know if watching a show would necessarily count because you're still on electronics there. I know I sometimes do that, but if I do it too much, I realize I'm not actually feeling any better. Meditating, journaling, scrapbooking, if you're into that. I've really been enjoying macrame the last few years. I'm really bad at it, but painting, there's a bunch of different things, kind of like finding your inner child there. What is it that you really enjoyed when you were younger? And finding that and being like, okay, wait, I'm gonna heal that inner child. I'm gonna heal that part of me that's inside, and just really being kind to yourself, paying attention to yourself, and just being kind to this existence that you are, and then going from there. And the more that you just spend time trying to get to know yourself, the more you're going to realize that you actually really like yourself. And it's not always like this. I'm not saying it's going to be easy right away, because getting to know yourself it's really uncomfortable. But again, what we're doing here is we're trying to stop running away from the emotions that we have been running away. Being uncomfortable is normal. Being uncomfortable, it's okay. And so, noticing that, yes, maybe I'm really uncomfortable getting to know myself here, but what is it that I can do that's gonna kind of fuel my mind and fuel my soul and just the person that I am, and just spend that time getting to know yourself. Spend that time understanding your little habits and picking up the things that, maybe are really great about yourself. I honestly, one of the best ways that I learned to love myself, I think, is looking at myself in the mirror. Like, I before was not sure about having a mirror where I am always, because it was just so much comparison and stuff. But sometimes when I wasn't feeling good about myself, I would force myself to sit down in front of the mirror and smile. And I would just smile, maybe turn on a little bit of music and just smile and just pick out things about myself that I could love. And it helped a lot. And it was so uncomfortable, and it still is a lot of the times. But to pick out those things that you love about yourself, and catch yourself anytime you're comparing yourself to anyone else or having an urge to people please. It's all about just taking it easy on yourself, catching yourself in those habits and realizing like, oh, hey, I caught myself in that habit, oh, I was about to people please. Oh, I was comparing myself. Okay, I recognize that it happened. Now what can I tell myself that's, an opposite of that? So maybe I compared myself to someone else, and I can be like, okay, well, I did that. What is something I love about myself? Or just even being like, what is something I can do to distract myself so I don't continue comparing? It is something as simple as that. And it can be difficult, it can be really hard, and it can be really painful. But, if you're trying to stop people pleasing, ultimately, people pleasing is living for other people, and the goal is to stop people pleasing and to live for yourself. So how are you going to live for yourself if you don't know yourself? And so you really have to focus on getting to know yourself. And then the last step to, I think, just going through this process of evaluating your people pleasing tendencies and trying to get out of that is to actually start living for yourself. So you figured out why, you figured out that people pleasing, isn't what you want, and you've started to get to know yourself, but now you actually take action in living for yourself. So a big thing here is to say no, to start saying no, and to start stepping out of your comfort zone, and to start doing what you want to do and doing what you love, and this is huge. This is where it's like you're able to kind of reap the benefits of what it is. And it's still uncomfortable, but you're still able to look. Okay, I think it was maybe 2019, 2018, somewhere around that time. I saw someone post on Instagram something that they had been doing. They had been like singing in their car or something like that. And they were like, you know what? It's so fun to just make a fool of myself. And it really hit me because I was like, wait a second. I would never feel comfortable doing that. But yet here they are doing that, and I admire them for it. I was like, I need to start stepping out of my comfort zone. Like, that was something that would be so out of my comfort zone, but now I see it in someone else and I realize, oh my gosh, like that just makes me feel like I want to be like that. So to do that, I realized, okay, you know, I'm going to make myself a challenge, and I'm going to challenge myself to step out of my comfort zone every day, once a day, every day, even if it's something as simple as, you know, complimenting the stranger's shirt that I really like or something like that, complimenting someone's smile, complimenting something else, or going to do that thing that I really wanted to do but I was afraid of, you know, taking the risk, taking that leap of faith. Honestly, starting this brand was one of those moments where I was out of my comfort zone. That was a leap of faith, and I've taken a lot of them to get here, and I'm still taking a lot. Yeah, I can't deny it. I'm a little bit uncomfortable sometimes being on the camera. I'm a little bit uncomfortable just with the whole brand in general, figuring out how to just like figuring it out, you know, I'm figuring it out as I go, and people see that. They see my new idea of like, oh my gosh, we're going to start doing this. And then, you know, 2 weeks later it flops and I decide, no, we're going to change it to this. You know, it's uncomfortable, but it's living for yourself. It's living for who you are. And so I feel like for me, the big way that I was able to start that, because there's so many different ways to live for yourself. But I think one of the first big things was to step out of my comfort zone, because, you know, saying no is, I think, one of the common examples in terms of people pleasing specifically. But yes, you should be saying no, but it's not something that you can consciously like choose to do every day. Stepping out of your comfort zone is doing something for yourself, and it's kind of boosting that confidence in terms of, yes, I can live for myself. I can do something for myself. Whereas saying no, you know, you have to have someone ask you to do something that you can say no to, or you have to have something that prompts that saying no. Whereas stepping out of your comfort zone, you have a lot of freedom there to figure out what it is that you're gonna do, even if it's something like being at a stoplight and dancing in the car to your music. You know, it's something that's out of your comfort zone, and you get to choose that. It doesn't depend on anyone else. So I feel like that really is the big first step, because, at least for me, because you can really choose to do that on your own, and it doesn't depend on other people or other things. And then from there, adding in things like saying no when it's time to say no, or trying new things, or just consciously being aware of the fact that you're doing something for yourself. You know, there's something, honestly, when I was going through a big people pleasing phase, and I tried to combat it, honestly, the big thing that would always just motivate me to keep going and to keep stepping out of my comfort zone was imagining myself just standing up tall and walking through a hallway or walking across the street or something, and just being like, there she is. Like, that is me. Like, I have no other cares in the world. I am completely me, and everyone just wishes they were me. And that sounds self-centered. And, you know, yes, it is. It is. But it is a goal, because in terms of that, everyone wishes they were me. I don't want everyone to wish that they were me. But I wished that I was me. You know, I wished that I was that person, because that was the person I was imagining. And I wished that I was that person. And I remember even being in high school and seeing people, sometimes people who were even younger than me, and sometimes people who were older than me, and seeing them, you know, walking from class to class, hanging out with friends and stuff, and just seeing them and being like, wow, I wish I had that confidence. You know, who is it that you look up to for their confidence? Who is it that, you know, just inspires you. And if there isn't someone, then create that reality in your mind. Create that image of that person in your mind and then decide to be them. Obviously, don't be them, but like pick up the habits that you want from that. Try and just fake it till you make it, honestly, and just find that confidence, because I do really think that people pleasing and living for yourself, it isn't about just stopping the people pleasing. It's about learning how to actually live for yourself and be confident. And those are the ways that have helped me. And those are the things that I am working on even now. And I'm working on, especially with, like I said, making friends. I've been meeting a lot of new people at school lately, and it's been really, really fun. But that is something that I can't deny. It goes through my head. Every single time I meet someone new, it goes through my head. What are they going to think of my Instagram? What are they going to think that I have a YouTube? How are they going to feel about it? Is it going to change the way they feel about me? It's a struggle, and I'm working at it, and I am honestly taking away a lot from this little chat here and gonna be applying it to my life again. Make sure to press follow if you're on a podcasting platform, or make sure to subscribe on YouTube, and feel free to let me know what you think in the comments. Feel free to just talk to me. I love it. And make sure to have the notification bell on, and I'll see you next week.